It is now my pleasure to introduce Zoe Robinson, who is the advocate for children and young people in New South Wales, to the stage. She will be facilitating a panel discussion, and I'm really looking forward to it. Zoe believes that all children and young people should have the opportunity to be heard, and they are central to the work that's being done. So I'm going to hand over to you, Zoe, for you to invite your panellists to the stage.
I assume I'm sitting in the right spot because I failed at that at the beginning. But if our lovely friends India Smith from Batyr and Helen Bird from Butterfly Foundation would join me on the stage, please welcome them.
Thank you.
Now, I'm that unfortunate person who has a hard exit because there are young people in youth justice who also need health and to talk about that. So that is where I'm heading after this. So apologies when you see me dash off the stage. But thank you both for being here today, and the health of our teens is incredibly important, and I know there's a lot of conversations going on about, especially in a COVID time. But India, if you could start by perhaps telling us a little bit about what Batyr does, but also what you see or Batyr is seeing as the rising mental health issues for teens.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Zoe. Hello, everyone. So I work for Batyr, and Batyr are a preventative mental health youth organisation driven by young people for young people. And the aim of our work is to really reduce the stigma around mental health, empower young people with the skills and knowledge and confidence to reach out for support when they need it, and facilitate positive conversations so that people get the help that they need when they need it before reaching crisis point. And I think, as you just alluded to there, Zoe, I think there are a multitude of pressures and challenges that young people are facing. COVID-19 has caused a lot of disconnection for young people at a time when young women are seeking independence and peer connection, social isolation, and disruption to education, which also impacts. We've seen increase in anxiety and depression internationally, but particularly young people have been significantly affected. We've also seen a rise in social media use, and people are able to access and consume information at vast amounts of speed and rate, and the pressures that puts on young women. And we know, I think Helen from the Butterfly Foundation can talk to this, but I think we've seen a recent study showed that 65% of young females felt pressure to look a certain way from Instagram and social media sites. So that's another one. I think, disordered eating, we've also seen the impacts of COVID on that as a way to sort of manage the emotional distress that's brought on by kind of world events. And you now look at what's happening across the world as well. So there are, in our work, we sort of have, we're very lucky to speak to thousands of young people and young women every year, and those are kind of some of the key things that we're seeing as well. So it's tough at the moment, but there is lots of amazing work happening as well to support them.
And I've seen it firsthand in my household. I have teenagers and I have a teenage girl, and I think that certainly that pressure to look a certain way doesn't just stop in the teen years, and very consciously trying to make sure that how I behave and how I respond to certain things is something that I share very closely with my daughter. But Helen, perhaps you could talk a bit about body image and, I guess what we're wanting to hear is those conversations that we should be having, or how even our behaviour, I guess, can assist.
Well, the important thing about body image is that we all have one. We all have feelings about our body, and they may be generally satisfied, dissatisfied, or we just might not think anything really much at all about our bodies, which would be great. And that body image changes over the course of our life, from day to day, moment to moment, and I think what we see is that a lot of young people today, we're living in an image-obsessed society, which equates our worth as a human intrinsically to how we look. And that we have young women growing up thinking that their value is in the number on the scale, and that they're not worthy, and that their body is there for somebody else's appreciation, and it's not their vehicle to travel through life through. It's to be objectified. And so we do see a lot of, 1/3 of young people are either very concerned or concerned about their body image. We have 50% of pre-adolescent girls saying that they're dissatisfied with their body. And we know that weight stigma piece, so associating with thinner bodies as being better bodies, starts really, really young in that kind of preschool space. So it can feel like a bit of a helpless situation that, as a society, we need to kind of decide, like, when are we going to stop? putting so much emphasis on our appearance. But I think as people that work with young people or parents, we can do maybe 5 key things. If you'd like me to talk to those. So yeah, 5 key things. So we can encourage our young people to know that comparing is unfair. Basically, it's human nature to compare ourselves to other people, our friends, peers, influencers, but generally it doesn't really do our body image any good. And what we need to do is talk to our young people about being unique, recognising their own true value and seeing themselves as a whole person, so not just a body. Because the problem with comparison is we can always find somebody that's skinnier, prettier, taller, thinner, faster, more musclier. You know, we can always find somebody, we compare up, so we can always find somebody that's better than us. I think the second thing we can do is help our young people have a positive experience whilst they're online. And that might mean really helping young people really tune in to how their social media experience is making them feel. Is it inspiring them? Is it motivating them? Are they seeking, are they admiring other people's qualities and passions and purpose in life? Or are they using social media to criticise themselves, compare, or engage in compensatory behaviours? So really helping our young people know those tools around the wellbeing functions, the report functions, the mute, the unfollow, the timeout functions. And as parents, I think we need to make sure that we understand those too so that we can help our young people with those. And, looking at those media literacy skills so that they understand that content is digitally altered, manipulated, presented in a certain way to make us feel bad, because making us feel bad helps sell products. I think the other thing we can do is encourage our young people to nourish their bodies and tune in and listen to their bodies. There's just so much information about health and what it means to be healthy, what we should eat, how we should exercise. And I think we start to look to other people for advice rather than trusting our own instincts. And particularly for young people, they're turning to maybe wellness trends or influencers, many of whom really don't have any sort of qualifications or expert knowledge, and it's certainly not individualised to that person. So helping them to know that they need to nourish their body throughout the day because it fuels their brain and it gives them energy, and that intrinsically their body knows what they need for them. I think we also need to help our young people reduce the amount of parents talk, both within our homes, online, in friendship groups, anywhere and everywhere. I mean, we just talk about appearance the whole time. We comment on people's appearance the first time we meet somebody. Oh, you look great. Have you lost weight? And we just really need to give our young girls some strategies to kind of notice when that's happening, put them in some blockers, or learn how to redirect the conversation or challenge the conversation. I don't want to talk about this. I find this really boring. Can we talk about something else? And I think the final thing we can do is help our young people to dial down that negative self-talk and have a more kinder relationship with our body. And that's something that we're really promoting at Butterfly, is that's about being body kind. So kind in the way that we nurture our body, kind in the way we nourish it and the way that we move it, and the way that we talk about it, our own body, other people's bodies, online, in our heads, anywhere and everywhere. So there's 5 key
That's great.
things.
I hope everyone took notes on that, and that somehow that will all be available online. And I have to say,
it is.
In that moment where my trusted friend had to adjust my microphone and my top had to come up, I was like, oh gosh, I hope no one saw the side of my body on that one. Anyway, we still all have it. We all still have things going on. And I think one of the questions that came from the floor before was also understanding the men in this world as well, around what we should be doing in terms of how I've got teenage boys in my house as well as teenage girls, what I want them in terms of understanding about how they treat their peers and their colleagues. And we know eating disorders are not just eating disorders in women, they're also in men. So understanding what that relationship looks like across peers. India, perhaps you could give us some advice about how we could approach conversations with teen girls. Also noting that there is a lot of commentary right now, and young people themselves are talking about the online world and perhaps the disconnect between parents, and I am one, of understanding the importance for them on social media and perhaps speaking very frankly, my desire to remove all social media from the world, and that doesn't work either. So how should we be approaching these conversations?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the first thing probably to know is that the more kind of regular check-ins you have with your child or young person, the easier the harder conversations are. So kind of regular check-ins over the dinner table can be really, really helpful. There's also a big myth that, you know, parents are often worried they'll make things worse by talking about it. And actually, by not talking about it, stigma worsens. And I think we've spoken a lot about stigma today from different people, and actually just by open communication and active listening as a parent is the most valuable thing that you can do. And so I think probably if you do notice, it's also probably worth mentioning that what you may want may not be what your child wants or what your young person wants. And that's also okay. Like I mentioned before, you know, teenagers are going through developmentally when they're kind of seeking independence and peer connection. So it's okay if they're pulling away, you know, a little bit, but also as a parent or carer, being in the knowledge that I just want them to be off that because I can see it's not helpful might not be the best thing that they want as well. So I think if you do notice a behaviour or a specific behaviour or a change in behaviour that is concerning, it's about being present when you raise it, so sort of no distractions, and taking a real non-judgmental stance, and using open kind of ended questions, and really just listening to hear. And not kind of, it's hard because I know, like you just said, Zoe, you want to be like, I can see it's not good for you, but really trying to be conscious and not sort of judge in what they're going through. But yeah, just provide the space for them to share. If they want to, they may not want to, and that's okay. You've given them a space to know that you're there if they need it, and you've opened that door, and that is actually one of the most important things that you can do as well. And I mentioned before, you know, if you do see a change in behaviour or a specific behaviour, it can be really helpful to sort of call that out. So I've noticed, you know, that you're not socialising as much as you were. Is everything okay, or is something going on for you? And then just, you know, take their lead in terms of how they want to take that. And by active listening, you can offer sort of reflections to make sure that you've heard them the right way and what they wanted to hear. And I think those are some of the key things to sort of in how you can respond to your young person, because it is tricky, because, you know, social media, I think, does get a really bad rep, but actually we've got to also acknowledge the power of connection that it's facilitated over a year where we've been disconnected, 2 years where we've been so disconnected. So I think it's about, like Helen mentioned, sort of also calling out if you're noticing that they are, you know, lower in mood after checking their social media, or, you know, a bit more agitated, just kind of calling out that behaviour and say, oh, maybe, you know, we can put that on mute, or, you know, little things that they can do but not overbearing, I think is important. I think as well, you know, young people often turn to their peers for support, so I think there's a lot we can be doing as a society through schools, you know, as an education provider as well in batyr, like equipping young people with the skills to support each other, I think is a really, really valuable place. We know through research done with the Department of Ed actually that young people are most likely to seek support from informal support networks as a starting point, so friends, teachers, parents, so equipping those kind of ecosystems in which young people exist with the skills and confidence to talk about it is a good starting point.
So that's an interesting segue into, I've heard a lot of people talk about lighthouses, and you know, we all talk about it takes a village to raise a child. So what are the kinds of support that, for example, Butterfly Foundation can provide, but also more broadly, and you know, how do we work together around these conversations?
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know, Butterfly is the national not-for-profit supporting people with eating disorders and the people that care for them, their loved ones, family, friends, and also the professionals that support with them. So we offer a range of services. Perhaps maybe the most well-known is our national helpline, and that's available to anyone who wants to just have some short-term counselling, who just wants to talk through some issues. It could be about yourself, it could be about someone that you care about, it could be somebody that you work with. So there's our national helpline, and they can help you access eating disorder professionals in your area through our national referral database, which is also searchable from our website. And we also offer a range of recovery support groups, both online and face-to-face. And perhaps most excitingly, we've just opened Australia's first residential recovery support centre up on the Sunshine Coast called Wanda Nerida. which is a treatment facility, a 13-bed treatment facility for people experiencing all types of eating disorders. So lots of information on Butterfly website. The bit of Butterfly that I'm responsible for is our prevention program. So one of the things that I've been involved in is the Body Kind Families, which is a resource for parents of teenagers who just want to kind of help to understand body image a bit more in young people, and how they can have helpful and supportive conversations, and how they can create a home environment, that ecosystem, how they can create a home environment that supports healthy relationships with food and exercise and a positive body image. So there's a lot of free resources on there, videos, tip sheets, what to do if you're concerned, how to have those important care conversations, family activities, discussion cards that you can have with your children to kind of try and open up some discussions around body image, what it was like for you growing up, how it's changed. So there's a lot of support through Butterfly. So do jump on our website, butterfly.org.au.
And I think just on that as well, sorry to go.
Oh no, I'm just trying to I'm exiting stage
you've
left.
got to go. Okay.
But I'm being replaced by the incredible Georgie, so you get upgraded. But I think it's really important in that line to talk about, as a parent, we're not alone.
No.
And what I do want to say before I jump off the stage is a lot of people left this room during this conversation. It's now up to you to go talk to those people about how they can support teens as well. Side stage.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zoe.
Thanks, Zoe. I was just going to say as well, I think what Holly was saying before, you can't pour from an empty cup if you're a parent or a carer, and so there are a lot of amazing resources and help and community groups and helplines out there that you can go to as parents. So Beyond Blue have amazing resources. Head to Health is a new government sort of resource hub, which has amazing, it has lots of different information about lots of different organisations that are available to help. And also I think it's important to note that don't be afraid to, suggest professional help for your young person or your child if it's what you feel that they need, and that there are, whether it be Kids Helpline, which is available from 5 to, just like the name, it's available for young people up to 25. eHeadspace is an online resource, and there's lots of amazing, and obviously Lifeline as well is there if people are in need of that kind of crisis support. But there are so many amazing places to be able to seek support, but it is important that you're supporting yourself to support your young people, I think, is a key thing as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now, can I ask if anybody has got any questions? Any questions from those in the audience?
Okay, quick question. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she loves to snoop into my personal Instagram and into my personal Facebook. Now, she has come with this fantastic idea of kind of bypassing the system, saying, I want to get a social media for our cats. So it's like, can I create an account for the cats? And I'm going like, yeah, it's not going to happen, sunshine. So is there any recommendations that you would have when younger people is trying to get into social media? Any guidelines that you think it could start helping to have that? Because it starts very innocent, but I don't want to open the Pandora box. Okay. So what would you, but I can't hide it either because everyone is talking about it. So how do you handle that conversation?
Well, can I start?
Yeah.
So I think I always have that kind of car analogy, like you don't hand over the keys to a car to a 16-year-old without telling them what the safety features of the car is, where the mirrors are, where the airbag is, where the brake is, how to stop, So I think we can't give our young people social media without having those safety conversations first. And we do know that young people are accessing social media before the age guidelines. There are ways to get around that. So I think, we start social media, it's a blank page. We need to tell our young people, you are the drivers of your social media. Do not let it drive you, because the algorithms will drive if you let them. So you need to put in those controls as early on. And I think as parents, it's really hard to keep up to date with what those controls are. There's new features being added all the time in Instagram and TikTok, and you can, you know, a new follower, you can limit the amount of time, this length of time before that new follower can comment on your post. You can put in buzzwords that you never want to see in your comments. So there's all these great safety features. So I would recommend any parent jump on eSafetyGov.au, eSafetyGov.au. So that's the eSafety Commissioner's website. There's a parents portal there, and that goes through each of the platforms and helps you navigate the wellbeing controls and the privacy settings, so that you can make sure that when you're a young person, you hand it over to them or they get access to it, that you start build those controls in early, and you have your, you can't it's hard to retrospectively put in the boundaries with a young person. I learnt that with my own teenager. And I think if I'd started right at the very beginning, I'd probably it would be a better experience for him right now, but I didn't. So if your child is not yet on social media, put the boundaries in earlier.
Am I right?
No, that's great.
Am I right in saying that 13 is the age at which it's legal for children to have social media accounts? And I think our eldest child is 11. I've also got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I share your concerns, but I also, my understanding is, and I know it's difficult, but that 13 is the absolute earliest that they should be having their own accounts, even when they desperately want it.
Yeah.
And I think it's, you know, it is one of those things that as a parent having boundaries is really difficult, but it is actually they are the guardrails that keep children safe. And I know how social media can make fully grown adults feel. I think the capacity for it to be incredibly difficult for children in a number of different ways is problematic. Did you have anything else to add, India?
Yeah, both of you hit the nail on the head. I think boundaries are really key. I mean, in a way, it's, you know, that she's come to you and said, I want to do this, and it's not going back, you know, it's not kind of secretive as a positive thing, but I think, yeah, I would lean into always what the government guidance and advice is, and also seek out where you can get the information you need so you feel equipped to put in those boundaries, like Helen was saying, on the eSafety website, because there's great guidelines on there.
One more question?
So I haven't looked specifically at your resources for the parents, but what I want to know is, in the way that you guide and support the parents, we seem to be blaming social media and blaming the children's access to the social media. Are we educating the parents not about the boundaries for their children, but what are they saying and what are they doing? Because I work with younger mothers and I see them with their daughters and their photos on Instagram that are altered. I hear them always talking about their diets. Are we educating the parents in that way?
Yes.
Because as a parent myself, I always believed that it wasn't what I said, it was what I did. Because they follow what you do, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And also educating the parents around that. Yes, it is about, some of it's about body image, but a lot of eating disorders, it's about control. It's which is why COVID has had such an impact as well. It's not just about seeing pretty girls, and that's where I think there needs to be a lot more education.
Yeah.
In my day job, I run the Parenthood, which is a not-for-profit advocacy organisation representing parents and carers. And the starting point that we have is that for children to thrive, parents and carers need support. Yeah. You know, the idea, we can't say that as a nation we care about children if we don't care about supporting the parents and carers around those children. And I think there is a really important conversation to have there. I know that particularly for women, we are socially conditioned from such a young age that our worth is so closely attached to our physical appearance. And if you actually step back and start to look at the conversations that happen around you, it can be quite jarring. I mean, I've said this a few times now, we do have 3 daughters. I grew up with a mum who was very, very adamant that we would not talk about weight or appearance, and she calls it the cattle report. Like so often in a social situation, the first thing women say about each other, oh, you look so good, what have you done to your hair? Oh, have you lost weight? What's happening? And it just the message that sends to the young people around, but also to the other women around, is that that's expected, that's okay. And I know people don't do that because they're trying to be harmful, but if you don't step back and look at the big picture, it's very difficult for the damage not to sort of perpetuate.
I mean, role modelling is a big piece of the picture, but as adults, we're not immune. We're swimming in that super diet culture ourselves. So we run parent seminars, and one of the things we do encourage is positive role modelling, but we recognise that for a lot of people that is actually really challenging, and that we need to do our own learning and unlearning when it comes to some of the things that we have, beliefs that we have around weight, shape and appearance, and that we as parents are not going to get it right all the time, but there are really fundamental things that we can do. So just not commenting on our child's changing body or their weight, talking about food in a very neutral way. Food is not good, bad, junk, toxic. Food is food, and all food has a place within a balanced diet. Showing appreciation and respect for all bodies, no matter their size, and truly embracing that idea that a healthy body can be, a healthy body doesn't need to look a certain way. A larger body can be a healthy body too. So it is really difficult to kind of undo some of that thinking. But I think as parents, we really do need to realise that what we say and do in front of our children is really, really important.
That brings us to the end of the session. So I would like to thank India and Helen, and of course Zoe, who has gone off to do the important work of looking after young people in this state. In this instance, she's off to see people in prison. So those children in the justice system need her desperately. So we are really grateful that Zoe was able to be here. Thank you both so much for your time.